at this part of the lecture notes, please.
Pictures, I would just click it.
The aqueous cavity contains the humor, and then, again, check that out. It drains, okay? And they tell you exactly the scleral venous sinus, and this is going to, it's between, again, the cornea and the sclera. It's going to drain. Now, this is where, again, you need that aqueous humor in there to supply oxygen, to pick up carbon dioxide, to supply nutrients, and to pick up excrements that are formed by the cells. Then it's got to drain off. If it doesn't drain off, what happens? Glaucoma. And that's where glaucoma is talked about. This is going to, again, give you a built-up pressure in the eye, and this can end up, again, damaging the retina because of the built-up pressure, and it can also cause damage to the optic nerve.
Now, where is the buildup going to actually occur? Is it going to occur right up here in front? Or
It's going to be within
in between right here?
the anterior chamber, mostly. It's going to be up in here
Up in the front part.
But that pressure there squeezes this and causes, this is the more delicate area,
So
causes damage to
this
the
right here
vacuum.
pushes this backwards.
Correct.
Boy.
And of course, they talk about, well, you can smoke pot, and that relieves the damage or relieves the pressure that's in the eye. But there's really much better effective eye drops that you would get from your ophthalmologist. And you apply the eye drops, and that can reduce it.
I don't know, if you have Snoop Dogg, he might
Yeah.
he might argue with you.
disagree.
He's gonna be like, no, you gotta be smoking. Smoke a little.
So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this lens. It talks about it being biconvex, so it bulges out on both sides of it. It better be transparent. If it's not transparent, that's called cataract. And cataracts can happen for a lot of reasons. My new little nephew was born with bilateral cataracts.
Oh, wow.
He's already had them removed, and they've already inserted a brand new plastic lens right there where his lens existed.
Would it feel like uncomfortable because it's plastic? Or
No, it's on the inside. It's on the inside. So I'll talk more about
Before
that.
cataracts, did they use a knife before, and they would just go in
it's
and?
a pea mechanical.
Man, why you gotta be brutal about this? Come on, dude.
So,
No, was that with a cornea?
so this is
I
what
remember my dad had
cataract
surgery.
surgery was this. They would go in, they would make an incision right here,
Slip it out.
and then they would take a vacuum cleaner
Oh, really?
and they'd slip it in, and the vacuum cleaner would, and then they would pull the lens out, and then they would insert the brand new lens in there. And
So
now the brand new lens is all fit with your prescription.
So is the lens like pretty hard and durable, or
There's got it, no, it's some flexible.
so it's a little bit
It's
flexible?
dense, there's density, but there's
Right.
flexibility.
It has to
So it's-
stretch and.
Yeah, it's got
So
a
it's kind of
bulge.
it's a little bit of solid and like it's a soft solid material.
You're gonna see when you dissect.
Okay,
When
Yeah.
and that's next class.
when you said that your nephew got like a
Bilateral?
so would that grow with his eye, or they have to change it, or it's just good for the rest of his life?
You might have to get it changed out eventually.
I'm flexing it right.
Yeah. Again, the lens is what's gonna be able to bulge to see what? Bulge? What do you see when you bulge the lens?
Distance?
Close. And it's gonna be able to flatten to see what?
Long distance.
Long, okay? And when you get older, that ability to have that flexibility diminishes. The lens gets harder, and sometimes it does get cloudy, and you develop cataracts. I think the exam question actually says, somebody is at the door and is walking towards you, well, how is your lens changing?
Dilated, right?
Yeah.
How is your lens
it's
changing?
flattening out.
Dilated.
Or no, it's
It's bulging.
bulging.
It's
Yeah, it's
bulging.
bulging. Yeah.
It's bulging.
Oh, because they're coming towards you.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
bulging.
it's
Getting closer.
it's bulging, right?
Right.
The lens is bulging as they're walking in.
When it bulges, does it like dilate or what? Is it dilating when it bulges?
No, okay,
No, it'll be-
that's the iris.
That's
Okay.
This is just the lens, just the lens. What's the lens doing? If it's dark in here, the iris will be dilated. If it's light in here, it's gonna be constricted. But if someone's walking towards you, you're keeping on focusing, the lens is getting fatter and fatter as they're coming towards you, okay?
Then with the right
Now,
hand,
right underneath this, here's the clinical aspect. And this talks about cataracts. This is when you get clouding of this. Again, age, diabetes, smoking again, not good, and exposure to sunlight. So not only should you be wearing sunscreen when you go outside, but you should be wearing sunglasses, or if your glasses have UV protection on them. And a lot of lenses do now. You just-
That costs too much money.
you buy it with
Honestly.
It's an extra $10.
I
Too
never
much.
knew how much glasses were until I had to pay for them on my own.
It's an extra like 100.
It's a
So
lot.
it's
It's
for-
so expensive.
I know, right?
Do you have them
I
on
just
yours?
thought there'd be like
I just
40
I thought there's like 50 bucks, but you have to pay for the lenses and the frames and then
If it needs
whatever.
to adjust.
Yeah,
so
like,
expensive for the
and then
freaking-
stuff to help it
Yeah,
not
dude, I'm just like-
scrape, like,
So they can see, I'm
it's
just
just-
like, oh my
it's
God,
better
this is
buying
far,
glasses than buying
and I
new
just have
eye.
sunglasses on.
Yeah, like,
The only thing is, like, I don't drive.
When you
Right, I
think
can't
about
use
light,
sunglasses.
visible light,
I don't drive.
we
Or I
can
could start
only
wearing more, but
see
then, like,
in a
there's this
certain
gap right here,
spectrum.
and that's
You know, bees
sweet.
see
I said
in
it's
this
weird.
UV spectrum. And then there's this crazy shrimp that lives in the deep waters that sees like 3 times as much as we do. And that means that they're just able to see all these different wavelengths. We can only see Roy G. Biv. That's it. Red, orange, yellow, all the way up to violet. That is the range of our sight. And again, basically, it ends up entering into the eye and it hits the photoreceptors. And then the photoreceptors are going to transduce. They're going to produce your action potential, so you're able to actually see it. Now, focusing on there. So if you take a look at it, we've already talked about this. You're actually focusing upside down and backwards. That's how the focus is, and it's your brain that's able to literally turn all of that around and then be able to make sense of what it is that you're seeing. Focusing for distance, again, the ciliary muscles are going to relax, and that flattens the lens. When they constrict, that bulges the lens. I know that sounds backwards, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Doesn't it sound a little backwards? But
Constriction.
please
bulging,
know it.
yeah.
And it makes sense too, because that's also how parasympathetic and sympathetic end up working. So again,
You said constricting was bulging? Sorry.
yes. So again, what ends up having an effect on the shape on this lens? What anatomical parts have an effect on the shape of this lens?
Ciliary bodies,
Ciliary bodies and the
suspension.
suspensory ligaments. That's what's going to be able to flatten and bulge. Okay, so make sure you know those parts of it. Okay, focusing in that. All right, let's look at the refraction problems. And I walked around and talked about this with some of the groups. Basically, when you cannot see far away, that is called nearsightedness, and that is myopia. And you have to, again, kind of come to grips with all those oxymorons there. Can't see far,
It's
Nearsighted.
and that is nearsighted, yeah. It is called
Can't
myopia.
see.
And
can't
what's
see
going
close.
on
Far side.
is that your eye is way too long. So the focus point is in front of the retina. So you're just not able to get the focus point on the back of the eye because your eye is too long. Hyperopia, and that is that you can see far, you can't see near, and that is that your eye is naturally too short, too stubby. and the focal point is actually behind the eye. And so once again, you're missing the focal point where it should be right on the retina.
So is it the eye that's too short, or is it the connection to the eye that's
Eye.
longer or shorter?
It's
Okay,
the
it's
eye.
the eye.
It is the eye.
Is the actual, like,
And that's gonna be a genetic, that is gonna be genetic.
It's always
Yeah, it's
okay.
genetic, yeah. Who
So-
has the
so curse-
long and
curse
who
my
has the
parents.
short.
Give me these little
Okay.
ones.
And then, of course, astigmatism, and
Of
we
course
already
you do
talked
both, we got
about
that.
that.
That's why I did
And
bad
what's
on
going
test.
on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did better than you.
I know.
So the,
She
the
was four.
photoreceptors themselves, again, actually, Ben just talked about that a little bit more carefully. So which ones are located on the outside region of the retina?
Oh,
Photo?
Which ones?
the
Which ones?
Gnosis.
And which ones
The-
are more located on the internal
the
portion of the?
Are those gonna be the pain receptor, the nociceptors?
No, no, no,
No,
these
no,
are on the,
ganglion.
these are
Oh,
photoreceptors.
Like
photoreceptors.
rods and cones.
So which ones are on the outside periphery?
Photoreceptors.
Rods.
Rods.
Which ones are on the
Oh.
inside?
Oh,
Cone-
okay, okay,
cones.
okay.
Right. And there's a lot
Rods on the
more,
inside.
neural connections to cones than to rods.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The cones are doing the big work.
So
They're
rods
doing
are
The
on the
rods.
inside, cones are on the outer side of it, right? Or did I mix this up?
Makes
your
sense.
outside, you're
Outside.
backwards. You're backwards.
Cones inside, rods outside.
Yes,
Yes.
rods are on the outside, cones are on
Okay.
the inside.
Cones
Okay.
inside.
Rods are going to end up being sensitized with dim light, and again, you just see dark. You just see black, gray, and that. They talk about this being best for night vision as much as you can end up seeing at night. Now, the cones, of course, this is gonna be for bright light. That's what is gonna be activated there. And, yeah,
So you said rods were for more like night vision and stuff like that? So do like cats and people or things who have night vision have a lot more rods than they do cones, or?
they have a different choroid region.
Okay.
And we'll see that when you look at the sheet dissection.
They have a different core region. Oh, okay, cool.
Different choroid there. Okay. First of all, there is a chemical in there, and this is where it gets to be pretty interesting. And it actually is a chemical that is vitamin A.
Really?
So they talk about carrots being important for eyesight, or they see bugs being, eating carrots. Well, carrots are high in vitamin A, and vitamin A are basically going to help out with vision. It truly helps with vision, nutrition-wise.
Dang, I
Ends
don't
up
like carrots.
helping with vision.
Oh, so,
Allergic to
nu-
carrot.
so like, wait, you said
I'm allergic to
nutrition wise,
vitamin A.
so how does that work?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of chemicals that your body has to make to run efficiently. And oftentimes food are precursors to those chemicals.
So like, would your prescription get better if you like start eating carrots way more often? It's too late.
No, no.
Dad was
Because
done.
again, is it going to change the length here?
Okay.
Is it gonna change the length this way? Is it going to fix the aberrations on your cornea or on
Carrots
your,
are a wonder.
you already got that.
You're
But
Carrots
what
are a
is it
wonder.
going to help with?
Prevent worsening.
It is going to allow for processing and for vision. It's these receptors that are in the back that require food substance. So I know you're a bad eater. You gotta fix it. You gotta eat your vegetables and get that stuff in you. Okay, so here it is.
What are those?
So let's
I hate
talk,
vegetables.
we need vegetables.
I hate vegetables.
Yeah, guys.
Vegetables.
You see
You're
my
gonna lose
body
the
type?
vegetarian.
I don't eat vegetables.
I've made it 19 years without eating vegetables. I can make
I'm
another
41
19.
years old.
So
I
here's the
can't.
rods. Here's the rods. The rods need the retin-A. They need the retinol. They need the vitamin A. They also need another protein called opsin. Okay? So they need the vitamin A precursor, retinol, and they need opsin. Together, it makes rhodopsin. Okay? And rhodopsin is is the pigment required for photoreceptors to activate to do night vision. Okay?
Oh, it's recording.
Absolutely required. Now, what's interesting about this is that you have to wait for rhodopsin to be formed. Right now, how much rhodopsin do you have in your eyes?
100%.
None.
Oh.
Rhodopsin is for rods or cones? Rods. How much rhodopsin are you using right now?
None.
None. The lights are on. All right. How much rhodopsin do you have?
All
no,
of
no,
it.
right now.
Damien's breaking.
I know, right? Damien doesn't have it.
Damn.
Close your tops. Close your stuff off and try to douse
see
the
you,
light
Ben.
a little bit.
I see you.
I still see things.
I see.
pretty good.
30%.
I
All
see
right.
hoops.
Are you seeing more?
40%.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more?
50%.
Yes.
Stop
Okay,
loading, bro.
If we sat in here for 20 minutes, you would see even better.
No, I can see the test. No,
Okay.
finally, I can
Dark
finally see.
adaptation.
I see everything actually.
What
No,
is
it's 'cause I
that?
barely turned.
Dark adaptation.
Dark adaptation.
When the lights are on.
Dark adaptation. So this is, again, your eyes have to make the rhodopsin. So the retinol from eating vegetables, Gigi, plus the opsin are gonna come together to form it when you need it. Now, hold on a sec. Lots of questions, I know. Hold on. Hold on. The most dangerous time to drive or the most amount of car accidents happens, when is your guess?
Dusk.
Daytime.
Dusk.
Yep.
Why?
Because
Because
the light
Oh,
change.
because your
The
eyes
light
are
changes.
changing.
And people are
right?
rushing home.
The light changes. The light changes and you have not made the full extent of this chemical. You would be better off with just having the lights off and seeing headlights, but not everybody has their headlights on at that time either. So your vision is pretty bad.
It's scary.
It takes a while to actually warm up to that. Okay, now, your question.
Oh, okay. How do you form opsin? For the second part of the.
It's a metabolic process also happening in the eyes.
Okay, so
So
it's
it
just
is-
it naturally
It
makes
is a
itself.
chemical that you are constantly
Is there any way to increase the
producing it,
production of?
probably eating your vegetables.
I don't like that.
Guys, come on, you just add tuna fish with a melody.
I just
Okay,
want some candy.
cones,
Some big
cones. So cones, there's only
No
3 cones types that you have. This one, Funky Shrimp, has like 12. Okay, we only have 3. Every single color, hue, intensity that you see is formed by the 3 cones. Blues, reds, and greens. That is it. Everything is formed by that. And essentially it's combinations. So if a light comes in and it is in a certain electromagnetic wave, it is going to hit the cone that it can activate, and the cone is going to activate and cause an action potential. Okay?
This is gonna be a real stupid question, but I have to know. If I cut open into an eye, sheep eye or something, am I gonna find 3 cones in their eye?
No.
Where are these cones found?
They are
remember this.
probably histology, and I'll probably have you pull out the microscope and see the.
So they're like
see the rods
they're
and-
embedded into the
Oh,
eye itself.
And they're
Remember that
microscopic.
These are microscopic. These are.
Yeah,
You
you have
have a big old
actual
cone like
cone.
that.
I wanna see like
Oh
3
my
triangles all
Cellular
lined up and stuff.
receptors. Receptors.
I told you guys it'd be a stupid question. Okay?
Anyways, no more questions. No more questions.
Hey,
You guys tested color blindness, and color blindness is when you're lacking maybe some of the green or some of the blue or some of the
Oh,
red.
man, colorblind sucks.
and you're lacking that, and again, you're not gonna be able to see the whole range of colors that we end up knowing. Okay, the next part of this starts looking at the signal transmission and basically what types of action potentials they end up producing. So, and again, keep in mind, we already talked about dark adaptation. Light adaptation is gonna be happening when you come into the light, and then what the pupils have to do, they're gonna try to cut down on the amount of light, cause it needs to protect the eye. You don't want maximum amount of light, and in fact, when they dilate your irises for a thorough examination, they send you out with the funky plastic,
Because it's actually
Yeah.
pupils too
your
big.
pupils are huge and can cause a lot of damage. So we can't end up dealing with this.
Goes blind.
This also has an adaptation, but it doesn't take nearly as long as the dark adaptation. So again, this is going to get the the cones to end up being able to fire. All right, so I'm gonna stop there, and then we'll just kind of